3 minutes. I'll call it, here we go. Heads, Fairbanks. It is tails. Mr. Haynes, you go first.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming out today. Appreciate it, bad weather. Appreciate everybody that takes time to come down to Pachyderm. A little difficult from time to time to get down here. Thank you for allowing me to serve as your assessor of property for the last 3.5 years. Very excited about the things that we've accomplished in the office. And proud of the staff that works for me and the work that they have presented to you publicly over the last 3.5 years. When I ran for this office 4 years ago, in the fall of 2015 and in the Republican primary of 2016, I promised I'd bring you a strong business background with the office, and that's what has happened. We've returned to the taxpayers over $500,000 in budget savings through 3 budgets. We're coming in under budget again this year. I'm very proud of that fact. Eliminated take-home cars for county employees. When I started the office, we had a fleet of over 24 cars, and now we're down to 14. So I'm proud of the improvements that we've made in technology, the efficiency that we've had in the office, our accessibility, and the responsiveness to the taxpayers and the property owners across Hamilton County. I'm very proud of that fact. We've worked extremely hard to make the office better. It was good when I got there, and we've worked hard to make it even better, and looking forward to more improvements as we move into 2021 as we get ready for the next reappraisal. Who's our timekeeper, by the way?
Oh, I guess it'll be.
I'll keep going if you're not going to stop me. I'll keep going. Again, the reappraisal of 2017. You got. Okay, all right, and then we have another reappraisal coming in 2021. Those have been on a 4-year basis since 1989. It's the first one countywide. I've got members of my family and my staff here with me today. My son, David and Miller. I can't see Miller at the moment. He's here somewhere. Esther, I see her somewhere in the back corner. I appreciate Esther taking time before she takes off for Nashville. And then a few employees from the office are here with me today. I can't stress how hard or how much I am impressed with the hard work of folks in our office and the integrity and the character that they show and what they do. We're one of the few offices across the state that our work is public. You don't have to call and ask us to send it to you. You can go right to the website. That's not the norm across the state of Tennessee for assessors' offices. We're one of the few. I think the number is 15 or 16, less than 20 anyway. But I think it's actually closer to 15 or 16. So I'm very proud of that fact. We're transparent. We don't have anything to hide. We are very, very serious about the work that we do in our office. I thank you for having us here today, and I ask you for your vote.
Thank you. You're keeping time, is that right?
Yeah.
If you'll just say time or whatever. We do have 3 minutes on each. And Mr. Fairbanks.
Thank you. I'm Randy Fairbanks. I'm joined here today by my wife, 39 years, Marty, and both of my daughters are here today with me, Lauren and Megan. And one of my grandchildren are here, little Landon, who's 4 months old. Zager, I have a 2.5-year-old grandson, Zager. He's in school today. We attend the Ministry Center in Hickson. I'm a 1978 graduate of UTC in a BS degree in accounting and finance. Shortly thereafter, I received my CPA. I've been involved, me and my wife have both been involved in Republican campaigns since 1994. We joined the Pachyderm, this club right here, 1994. And we just paid our dues last week for the 26th year in a row that we've been a member of this Pachyderm. Although I couldn't find my name tag back there. I looked for it, couldn't find it, but we've been a member. I was elected in 2014 to the County Commission representing District 1, and then I was re-elected in 2018. In my 6 years on the County Commission, I'm serving in my 2nd term as chairman. I've served 2 terms as vice chairman, and I've served 3 terms as the chairman of the Finance Committee. So I've been elected by my Republican colleagues to serve in the leadership position every year that I've been on the County Commission except the first year. So out of my 6 years, 5 years I've served in a leadership position in there. I've worked in the accounting field for about 40 years, 28 in the private, and the last 12 I've owned my own CPA office located in Hickson. In my career, I've managed hundreds of people. I've managed budgets my whole career. people have entrusted me with their finances, especially in the last 12 years when I do tax returns and that sort of thing. So people have trusted me over the years to handle their finances and their most important things that they have. I would challenge anyone to match me in managing a $4 million budget. I've managed budgets my whole career, and I would challenge anyone to manage a budget better than I would. We've had some great assessors in the past. Mr. Trimble, Mr. Ramsey, and Mr. Bennett have all been great assessors. But I'd be the first assessor with an extensive background in personal property reports and taxes. So if any of the business owners had a problem with their personal property tax, I could sit down and talk to them one-on-one because I've had that experience. The assessor's property is a management position. I have the education and the professional background to effectively manage the people and the finances of this important office. And I thank you for allowing me to be here, and I appreciate your vote of support. Thank you.
If y'all see me looking at my phone every once in a while, it's not because I'm rude. I'm the school closing guy, and these kids got to hear it. That, that's going to happen. If they're getting out early today, somebody's got to let them know. It may be happening.
You're looking at the Braves roster, let's be honest. You're looking at the Braves roster.
That too. Hamilton hasn't done anything yet. But,
Yeah.
We'll see. All right, we'll zigzag back and forth as far as who gets first shot. And since Marty Haynes went first, Randy Fairbanks, this one's for you. What made you decide to run for this office?
About 8 months ago, well, I say 8 months, now it's been closer to 9 months ago, some people came to me that worked in the office and was concerned about just the disarray in the office and some practices going on in the office, and they asked me would I consider running. At that time I told them that wasn't my plans, I didn't have those plans. And then maybe a couple of months later, they came back with some business people in town, some business leaders, and asked me again would I run and give me some information on some things that were going on, some things they weren't comfortable with. And so over a period of a couple of months, I talked to several different people. I also talked extensively with my wife, who when I first mentioned it to her just started crying. But after we talked and discussed it, then we decided to make the run. And then since then, I have looked more extensively in the office and studied some of the things in the office, and I think we have plenty of room for improvement there, so that's why we decided to run.
Well, I decided to run in 2015 the first time because I had the same background, not the same person, but a similar background to what Bill Bennett and Claude Ramsey had. They've both worked in private business. Both had served on the county commission. They both served a lot longer than I did. So that intrigued me in the first time because you're in touch with everybody in Hamilton County. You're not just focused on a certain area. You're working with everybody that's going on in Hamilton County. So that was my interest initially. The reason I'm running for re-election is because of the success we've had in the office. And under my leadership, the things that we just stated as far as budget savings and technology improvements, I can't stress to you enough about the improvements in technology that have come along. That doesn't mean the office was broke when Mr. Bennett was there. Most everybody in this room knows Bill Bennett. We know he didn't have a computer on his desk. We know that he didn't text very often. So improving the technology in the office has been something that I've worked extremely hard and it brought those improvements to the office. Once we completed the 2017 reappraisal, immediately upgraded our software that we have in the office. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that as the day goes along. Again, the opportunity to lead the folks in the office, working for improvements. Randy mentioned personal property. Online filing is something that we are working towards, and we'll have, because of the hires that I've made with a computer software programmer in the office, we'll be able to bring that forward to the public in 2021 when we file your personal property reports. By the way, if there are any business owners, small business owners in the office in here today, your reports are due March 1st. So that's a state mandated law. So make sure you get that in quickly. And we still keep those on file. And that's a department that has about 9 people in it. I'm very proud of those folks as well. But the reason I'm running again is to continue the good work going on in the assessor's office, and the fact that we've not had any audit findings from the state of Tennessee, from the comptroller's office since I've been in office, and that's not unusual. That didn't happen under Bill Bennett, Claude Ramsey, or Arch Trimble either. So thank you very much.
Marty Haynes, you get the next question. All these questions have been submitted by members of the club. I may not have said that at the beginning. What do you feel are the minimum requirements for any person to become assessor of property?
The minimum requirements, I think the state law says you gotta be 21 years old or whatever. I think that's what it is. Minimum requirements, simply be willing to serve, be willing to lead. Public service has been something that I've worked on in the past, or worked with in my own community and across the county since I've been assessor of property. But a minimum requirement is the ability to lead. And when things don't go right on a certain day, is to be able to manage through that and to work with good people and to find good people and to hire good people. And that's what I've done as assessor. There are no minimum. I think a high school diploma is all that is needed. I think an extensive background for in private business, small family businesses. I've worked for 3 companies. One is not too far from here. Porter Warner Industries was my last company that I worked for. Worked there for 16 years. Prior to that, I worked for Electro Minerals. They were offices in Boston, just outside of Boston, manufacturing in Niagara Falls and down in Central Florida. And then my first full-time job as an adult was a company called Brain Industries. I encourage you to call all 3 of those companies now, check about my work history, find out why I left. I've never been fired from a job, and I'm very proud of that, and proud that all 3 of those companies work intertwined together to move things forward and help me get to the next job that I had, and they've all been helpful to me since I've arrived in the assessor's office.
Minimum requirements for the position?
The age requirement is 21. I had to double check, and they said you could go ahead and start your paperwork as long as you're 21 by the time the election date you can qualify, so I did qualify. One thing that is unfortunate a lot of times, I think, in public service is there's not some minimum requirements. A certain age requirement, 25 signatures, and then people electing you can be elected to any office in here. Now, I just saw him, the sheriff, one of the exceptions to that is you have to have certain training and background there. But otherwise, in a job like this, there's no requirements, which is unfortunate. I think you ought to have a certain level of professional background and educational background to serve in some of these offices, but you don't. That's one of the things that's my benefit in serving in an office like this is my educational and professional background. And so, no, you just, unfortunately, you just put your name on the ballot, and then if you're elected, you serve. So I think there ought to be some requirements, but that's set by the state of Tennessee, and so as of now, there's no requirements. One of my strengths going into an office like this, and I've not only worked for companies over a period of years, I've owned my own company for 12 years. I've made my own budget for my office. I've managed my own expenses. And you know, plenty of business owners sitting here know the fact of when you own your own business, the buck stops with you. You can't raise taxes to get money, or you can't do anything like that. You can't push more growth. If you own your own business, the buck stops with you. You have to get out and hustle and cut your expenses and make sure your income is coming in. So I've done that for 12 years, so that's a good experience I've had in that area.
Some of this may have been covered in a previous question or two, but some of it may not. Randy, you'll get the first shot at this one. Please give 3 examples of your plans to improve the assessor's office.
Okay, first thing I would do when I go into the office is what I call stop the bleeding of the turnover in the office. I didn't mention it earlier, but when some of the employees called me about the office, the one thing, the major concern they had was some of their friends they'd worked with for years were leaving. And when I got in to check with it and check the numbers, over 50% in the last 3 years, over 50% of the appraisers that are in that office have left, either retired, resigned, or been fired. And so the first thing I would do is stop the turnover in there. The second thing I would do, and I think this is most important, I would turn the assessor's office back into a non-political office. There'd be no politics in the office. I know the former assessor, Bill Bennett, several people have told me he had a saying when it come election time. He said, "I'll do the politicking, you do the work." So I would have a rule when I go into office, there would never be any campaign signs inside the assessor's office. There would never be any employees that wear my sticker like this in the office. That would never happen. So I would stop that. I would never have any of my employees in a commercial that I made for running for office. I think that's probably not illegal, but I really don't think that's ethical to do. I'm asking you, when you're sitting there, I'm asking you, if you was in an office and you were presented, hey, you're able to do this if you want to, you could be in a commercial with me if you want to. What situation would that put you in? How uncomfortable would you be to be put in that situation? So if I am in the assessor of property, there'll be zero politics inside the office. The third thing I would do, the third thing I would do in real quick is have more realistic budgets set. The assessor said a second ago, I return $500,000 to the coffers each year. I've got a list here that I'll show you right here. Let me read you what's been returned in that office the last 10 years. $85,412, $389, $745, $419, $251, $294, $450, $217, and $330. Do you get what's going on here? Budget real high, and then say, oh, I'm returning this money, I haven't used it. That's done throughout the county. I think it ought to be a little different. The way I have in my professional career, you had a budget. You come in and say, hey, I turned in $50,000 this year. Well, next year when you do a budget, you better expect your budget's going to be $50,000 less. Not continually every year being able to advertise and say, I returned $500,000. I read you the last 10 years. Thank you.
All right. Marty Haynes, 3 examples of plans to improve the office.
Okay. First of all, I mentioned it earlier, online personal property reports. That's your business assets. We won't be able to do that online. I mentioned earlier the young man that is our computer software engineer. He did that in another office in another county, so that gives us a leg up to get that done, working within the same software that we have now, so that's a plus. Improved training and continued training. When I took office, we had one person with a professional designation within the appraisal world or in assessor world, as we refer to it. We now have 7. Now, one of those is married and moved on. His wife was a breadwinner in the family, but he's moved on, moved out of town. So I'm very proud of that. We're continuing to do that. There's a designation called Residential Examination Specialist. There are 14 in the state. We have 2 here in Hamilton County. We just had a young man complete that since I took office. We have 1 Tennessee Master Appraiser, and we've got 4 more that will be sitting for that examination later this spring. I think it's in May sometime. Those are not just going to take a class Monday through Friday, take an open book test on Friday, you get your certificate. It takes about 200 hours, takes about 8 to 10 classes depending on your, those are classroom hours. It takes about 8 to 10 classes to get those completed. So continued training. We have personal property in that department. We have 2 accountants in the office. We've never had anybody with a designation in that, and there's only 1 person with a personal property designation in the state of Tennessee. We're working towards that. They're just getting started. It's going to take them 3 or 4 years to get that completed. So I mean, continued professional development, and again, continued training and promoting people from within when they prove themselves capable. That's something that I'll continue to do. I do want to go back to requirements real quick. When you're here in front of folks, sometimes your first thought is to answer the question, but then as you process information, the Tennessee State Assessors Association, we're working towards requirements. It's a little more difficult for some of our folks in smaller counties than it is in some of the larger counties to be able to get away from their office. If you're in one of the small counties, it's you and 2 other people, it's a little more difficult. So we're trying to tighten that up. That's coming from the state legislature. They want more requirements of assessors to hold office. Most of the time that's thought you're trying to preclude people from running. And so once you get in office, we want post-election certification coming from our assessors. And I'm proud to announce that I have managed to pass 4 of those classes at this point. That's what I always tell the folks when I send them to a class. You know that I've passed, so the onus is on you. As far as turnover, I don't begrudge anybody leaving a county office making entry-level salary. If you're making somewhere between $32,000 to $35,000, even $40,000, and you get the chance to go make an extra $8,000 to $10,000, I don't begrudge those people at all for doing that. They've all, okay, thank you.
And we've reached halftime. There's no entertainment. But it does give me a chance to say if there are any pieces of unfinished business, we're doing good on time. So after the final question, we'll give you each a little time to take up any unfinished business. Marty Haynes will get this one first. Describe your conservative background.
Okay, conservative background. I've lived here in Hamilton County. That doesn't make you conservative, but it brings you up into communities where we are. That's generally where people live and how they, or the way they feel, the way they're raised. My grandfathers were both conservative Southern Democrats. So conservative background is something that's always been positive. When I was on the county commission, we always talk about transparency and accountability. That's something that, and no offense to all of us that are elected and have run for office, we all talk about it. I brought that forward on the county commission on discretionary spending. Because as a candidate, I had tried to go down and find out where was the District 3 discretionary dollars? Where were they going? Took 2 weeks to get it. So I promised that if elected to the county commission, I'd bring forward that we put a link on the website so you can click on the link and go see exactly where the money's being spent for your district. And to this day, you can still do that. I don't know whether it goes all the way back to 13. It may start in the 14 budget. I don't remember how far back it goes now. But you can see where the discretionary dollars are spent over time, as well as the travel and expense budgets as well. As far as conservative background, when you talk about the budgets, those are decisions. Those are hard decisions to make. And I'm proud to report that we have come in under budget. And that's not a wild budget. Our operating budget has been set for the last 3 years, and we've not increased it. $295,000. That's where we've operated on our operating budget each year. Salaries are determined sometimes whether the folks get a raise from the county. Mayor Coppinger puts forth a percentage increase, cost of living increase, whatever you want to call it for folks. So those raises have been reflected in there as well. You have to manage the dollars that are given to you. We've not submitted wild budgets coming so we can claim to come in under budget. Sometimes when some of these folks that have retired, and we've had 8 folks retired, thank you, Dan. 7 of them have been back in the office. So if they were so upset when they retired, why have they been back in the office? And the folks that have left, most of the ones that have left, even one that was dismissed, not because of my decision, because he violated county policy. He came back in at Christmas this past year. I don't remember whether it was there at Thanksgiving or not. I don't remember for sure. We usually do a summer lunch, a Thanksgiving lunch, and then a Christmas breakfast. But those folks are so upset when they're leaving. Why are they coming back? Why are they coming back? I've got plenty of letters that I could send to all of you for they're telling us about their time when they worked in the office. So I don't begrudge those folks that retired, even if they retired a little early. I don't begrudge that. If you're able to do that, great. I hope we all get to that point where we can retire and not have a question. So are there some folks that don't like me or didn't like me in the office? That's true, and they left.
Randy Fairbanks, describe your conservative background.
Let me answer a couple of those before I start that and everything. Let me give you some examples. 2 of those people that I've talked to that have retired, yes, they did retire. Were they ready to retire? No. They said we'd have liked to work 4 or 5 more years, but it just got so contentious in there, we went ahead and retired. I talked to a few other people about going back to their parties and everything. They said, oh, we always go back. They said, what we're going back for is to see employees that we've worked with for 20 or 30 years. That's why they come back for their parties. But let me say this. For whatever reason, people are leaving. 50% turnover is too much. You've got to stop that bleeding. You've got to get employees in there that will continue to work and stay in there in this important office. I'll put my conservative background against anybody. Early on in my younger days when we joined the party, I was president one time or 2 terms of the Young Republicans. I've worked in campaigns, me and my wife both, year after year after year to elect conservatives. I will tell you this fact, the biggest compliment I've had since I've been running for this office, when I went to start talking to business people, we all know we have to raise money. That's the bad thing about politics, you got to raise money. When I started going to business people, the first pushback I got from most of those were, Randy, who's going to replace you on the county commission? Will we have somebody as conservative as you to represent District 1? The biggest compliment I could give. I assured them there was some more up there in District 1. But my voting record, you can pull my voting record in the past. Since he mentioned it, I will mention this. It's kind of funny. Last time the assessor's race, discretionary funds was a major part of it. I don't know what discretionary funds has to do with the assessor, but it was a major part. Now it's creeping back in now. Let me tell you this. The first time discretionary funds, I came on the commission, the first time we had a budget proposed, it had discretionary funds were taken out. I had done promised some of my fire halls and fire departments. I fought for those discretionary funds that year. From then on, we took them out, we voted them out. But let me tell you how important that was. If you'll check my record, most of my money from my discretionary funds that I had for that one term was for my volunteer fire departments, to show you how important that money was and still continued to be. This last budget we last time, the mayor put an extra $1.3 million in our budget for all of the volunteer fire departments. Those volunteer fire departments could not make it. That's why I fought for the discretionary funds to stay in. I was just supporting my volunteer fire departments. And when that went away, then I made I made the fact known to the mayor and to the finance stuff and everything, finance department, they can't go without those funds. This last year we put extra funds in. Thank you, Dave.
All right, Randy Fairbanks, this is another question from the club. What are your thoughts about the Tennessee state law requiring millage rate adjustments after each property assessment? Does this help or hurt citizens, especially those who may be on fixed incomes?
It helps. It helps everybody in the public. What that is that's a safeguard the state has in the law, that when there's a reappraisal, that reappraisal can't increase taxes on the citizens. So the only one that can increase taxes on the citizens is the legislative body increasing the rate. So what the rule therefore, and I think it's a good rule, it's protect the citizens of an assessor being able to increase property assessments, therefore creating extra income. So the millage rate is set there to where the law is. The millage rate has to stay the same. So if the increase in the property values goes up, you have to adjust that millage rate so there is no increase there. A good rule. Protects the public from being taxed by someone that is not in a taxing authority, a legislative position.
Marty Haynes.
Okay, thank you. We all know that maybe we do, maybe we don't. Our own David Copeland was the one that brought that forward. It's called it's a truth in taxation rule or law. That's what he ran on many years ago. Was the certified tax rate. Your tax rate, whatever it is, has to decrease by the average growth in your county. It was around 10%, a little over that, maybe 11%. The tax rate in 2016 17 budget was 2.76 per hundred. After the reappraisal, it dropped to $2.49 per hundred. So it dropped by 26 cents, 26 cents, and it now sits at $2.76. So that's a rule that's been put in place. It works across the county. It is typically used against assessors. If you talk to some of my colleagues across the state, they're not particularly happy because we get tied to a tax rate, and they're trying to get that removed from the language. I don't think that's going to be successful. But we often get referred to as a tax assessor or tax appraiser, and that's okay. It comes with the territory. I know Mr. Bennett didn't care for it very much in the past as well. But it is a good law. It is something that we have to figure in the office, and it has to be certified and approved by the state comptroller's office before those findings are put forth. The local legislative bodies have to accept that. They have to accept that rate, and then if they want to change it, go back up or go down even further, that's up to them. Last time we had 5 that accepted the rate, I think of the local municipalities, not county government. I think 5 of them held the rate, and I think 5 increased their rate. Thank you.
All right, final question is a two-parter, and we'll start with Marty Haynes. If you lose the Republican primary election in March, what would be your plans moving forward? And if there is a Democratic opponent in the general election, will you pledge to support your opponent from the Republican primaries?
Yeah, I think that was pretty easy.
Is that-
There is
that's
not
not gonna
going to
be
be a Democrat.
Okay.
I don't believe there can be a write-in candidate. I don't know, somebody from the election commission could certify it.
Not after,
Yes, ma'am.
not after
They
the
never
deal.
won. You would
No,
have
well,
to
just,
write it
is it a
on the ballot.
possibility? Is it a possibility? The answer is no, I wouldn't support a Democrat in the general election. Sir?
A write-in would be that equivalent of winning the lottery.
Right, I understand that, but I just wanted to make sure, I don't know, there's some deadlines, if you're gonna be a write-in candidate, there's some dates you have to submit an application still if you want to be a write-in candidate, I'm not sure what those are. But, in the unfortunate event that I do lose, you know, I'll support, Randy, I'll support the Republican nominee. We need to do that as a party, we've got too many disagreements going on across the county, so in the event I lose, I'll support Randy, I'll proudly say that. He's been my friend, we've known each other for a long time, and I hope our friendship can continue after this race. So that should answer that. I hope that I win. If I don't win, I can go back to Porter Warner Industries and crank up my sales territory again, which I work there. I think they would take me back, or I hope they would. I would pursue other options, sure I would. You know, I gotta have an income. It's no secret, most of you know, my mother is still living, she's in assisted living, and that's not cheap, and that falls on me to pay for. So her finances are not where they wanted to be. She's outlived her money, basically, is what's happened. And so I'll have to find another, maybe I'll grow up to be Charlie Hunt, I don't know, maybe he seems to figure it out, so, anyway. No, I would continue working, and I'm not sure what role that would be at this point.
And Randy, just to re-ask that question, if you lose, what would be your plans moving forward? And, you know, for lack of a better argument, would you support Marty Haynes in the general election?
Yes, I would always support the Republican nominee. So if there was a write-in, or however that worked, if I lost, I would support Marty in the general election. If I lose, I'll continue to do what I'm doing now professionally. I'll continue with my CPA business. I'll continue to serve on the county commission as long as the people of District 1 would allow me to serve. But let me tell you the most important thing. If I lost this election, I'll go home to a wife who still thinks I'm the most important person in her life. I'll go home to 2 daughters who thinks I'm the best dad that ever lived. And I'll go home to 2 grandchildren that thinks I'm the biggest superhero there is. So in some people's eyes, if I lost the election, I might be termed a loser. But in the people that mean the most to me, I'll always be a winner, and I'd be a winner after this election.
All right. That's all the questions you all submitted, so we're at 12:45, have a little time, we may get you guys back to work on time. But let's give you each 3 minutes. If you want to sum up anything, if there's anything that the other person said you want to respond to or take issue with, now's your chance. Randy Fairbanks, you go first.
Thank you, David, for being here and hosting today. So gracious. You know, when you have things like this, you always want somebody impartial and that you can trust, that we all know. I don't think
And we got David Carroll instead?
nobody else is available for David.
But you'll notice I brought Joe Smith in as a referee. She didn't need it, so
Yes.
we're all good.
Let me say this in closing. Thank y'all for coming and listening to us today. And I want to say this. The Fairbanks name in Hamilton County has been trusted for over 60 years in business, education, athletics, and public service. And I want to bring that trust to the assessor's office. I will tell you this, that Fairbanks name stood one major test in this election. It's been about 2 months ago, and I'm holding right here, and oddly enough, this is from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. This was a request for a criminal background check on me. Oddly enough, it came from Missouri. Only request I've ever had in my life for my criminal background check. It found that I had reported I had a license plate stolen one time, but that was about the only thing on there. So I stand by our Fairbanks name that has been trusted in this county for over 60 years, leading up from my older brother through me all the way down to my nephew. Some of the people we trust our lives with every day, or some of the people that we trust our lives with every day, our police officers, city and county police officers, their union has endorsed me in this election. I believe I'm the best person for the job, and I ask for your support and your vote, early voting starting next Wednesday, and then on March the 3rd, the election. Thank you for allowing me to be here today.
All right, Marty Haynes.
Okay. We're glad you were here, David. I'm sure that Kim Chapman or somebody else couldn't be here today. So
They're all busy.
they're all busy, but thank you for taking time out. Thank y'all for coming out, like I said, on a rainy day. It's always tough to get out. I appreciate everybody in this room, whether we agree politically or not on issues. I appreciate everybody in this room, particularly those that serve, and particularly those that are around those of us that serve. This is an important race. My integrity and my character has been challenged. You're going to get a mailer later today that says that, based on no facts. Based on no facts. We're going to get DC-style politics here in Hamilton County starting today. It's going to happen. It's already happened. I've already been apprised of it. So, did you know you can go to the U.S. Postal website and you can see what mail is going to be delivered to your house today? I started getting those earlier today. There's a problem with our assessor of property. You might have heard in local news or social media, misused his office to greatly lower the tax assessment for his private golf club while raising it on others. Okay, let's talk about that real quick. The assessment at Creeks Bend did go down. That's a public record. Nothing to hide there. If we wanted to hide it, we would hide it. We don't want to because we're above board and we're transparent. The value on that property for 4 years, how many of you are familiar where Creeks Bend is? I challenge you to drive by there today. Drive by there today and tell me what you see. Because here's what it looked like on Friday. Water on the front nine up to the trees. Up to the trees. That's not a golf course, that's a lake. And we're getting 5 inches of rain between now and Wednesday. You know, I've heard about this for months now that this is coming, the big bombshell. Well, it's going to hit today. I'll take full ownership of everything that comes out of my office, and I'll stand behind the work of my employees. Mass appraisal. There are a few people here in this room that understand it because they work in it every day. Mass appraisal means you're doing the entire county. The entire county land values for commercial properties. Prior to 2017, when was the last time it was done in Hamilton County? 1992, by a gentleman by the name of Ron Henderson. In 2015, Bill Bennett hired a gentleman by the name of Tom Dillon. Tom Dillon came to Tennessee from the came to Hamilton County from the state of Tennessee as maybe the most decorated appraiser across our state. Today he's in the hospital over at Siskiyou because he was in an entrapment record just south of Thrasher Pike. Tom did the work. It went out under my name. I'll take full responsibility for it. But for 4 years, the Valley Brook Golf Course across the street was valued less than Creeks Bend. Valley Brook is a larger, more desirable piece of property and does not reside in a floodway. Creeks Bend, 40 acres of Creeks Bend resides in a floodway. Valley Brook does not. The assessment is fair and right. And Randy, if there's anything wrong at Creeks Bend, call the comptroller's office and report it. Report your findings. And I'll let him answer that. I'll be happy to.
You'll let me answer that? No, yes, I want to answer. His campaign manager says no, but let me answer it because the moderator said we can. Campaign manager, settle down a second. Don't speak for him. Let me say, we brought maps. And I can hand them out to you today that shows where he said FEMA has used these maps to lower the golf course up there, to lower their assessment. We've got the maps that show. If you can read those maps, it's hard for me to read, but if you can read those maps, you use this. Let me tell you this, any professional real estate person or appraiser that I've talked to will tell you that the best and highest use of property is what you value that property at. You don't go Creeks Bend. If anybody knows anything about Creeks Bend, they've been a money maker for years, for 50 years, and still a money maker. People can't play golf on there this week because it's underwater, but it's a money maker. To go in there and reduce that on a money making place like that just because it floods some is unheard of. That's what real estate people are telling me. That's unheard of. So we stand by You call it DC politics, that's interesting. Here's what I call DC politics, it's a federal background check. But that ain't DC politics, I stand by that, that's a beautiful replication of that. I stand by what we sent in there. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no lies in there, it's facts that he went down on that. Now you might try, you've got to decide as the voting public, you've got to decide, was it for a friend where he plays golf and he's been in golf for years, or was it legitimate? That's your decision. But it being untrue, something said that's untrue, it's not. That went down 28%, that assessment. I can't find one that's ever went down that low, so that's my answer on that.
All right, thank you very much. Program's over. If you all have any questions for either of them, you're welcome to after the program.